Last time I rolled my motorcycle out of Nevada into California over the Sierras just so I could drop my motorcycle in my buddy's house in his driveway, just like everybody else does that visits him. Up ahead in the distance is my buddy Brian, also known as Lone Wolves on Wheels on YouTube, and we are riding one of the straightest roads in this part of California. You can ride this road wide open, as you can see as this fella on the sport bike passes me. But as Brian sees him coming up, he's very competitive. He doesn't like people passing him, as you will see later on in this video and others. And as he sees this motorcycle approaching him, he speeds up to get his triple digits on. But it's kind of funny. Sometimes you just got to know your match. And this guy went around him in the next corner and then just kind of left us both in the dust. And I'm just sitting in back here giggling, going, yeah, he's not going to make it. Brian's not going to make it easy on this guy, which he did not. But I'm sure the guy got a chuckle out of watching Brian as much as I do. As you will see by watching the rest of this video and others, and if you go to his channel, you will know that Brian likes to visit old abandoned bridges and bridges that don't get too much traffic. He likes parking there, sitting and watching the water flow. Sometimes he pulls out his fishing rod, but most of the time he will pull out a beer. Bridges and picnic tables. He is a tour guide for this part of the country. If you want to see anything like this, any interesting road, Brian knows where they all are. And I think we've pretty much stopped at most of the ones that I've seen in his videos before. And I've got a separate iconic video riding across the Ward's Ferry Bridge and Ward's Ferry Road, which is exceptional. Very tight, twisty mountain roads that roll down to what is essentially a closed bridge, a closed road, but we went there anyway. There's lots of curvy roads around this part of California, lots of little dips like this, a few creek crossings, lots of dirt roads. The scenery and the twisty roads are just endless, and the road that you saw at the first of the video was an exception. There's not a lot of straight roads around here, and we found most of the twisty ones, and one in particular going up to his house. It's a paved road. I have a separate video on that coming out as we neutral coast down to the end of his road. Here's one of the trickiest turns on his driveway. There's a big sign up that telling everybody not to make this left turn because it's so tricky, it tears up the road. But I just wanted to show you where everybody else apparently drops their bike back there. I made it past this first time up, and only to drop it by his garage.
You like my big black cock?
You've got a nice cock.
I don't know if it broke.
Yeah, that's exactly what it looks like.
And that's where they had their sticks, or how they wrapped it.
Yeah, like a. I mean, don't they call that tomahawk, or not a tomahawk?
It's like maybe they hit with that end, or
yeah, it looks handcrafted.
Definitely that.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think that's natural. Where'd you find that up here?
Yeah, just up here on the ground. I saw that right there, and I was like, and it doesn't really match any rocks around here.
Well, it probably killed somebody first, and then
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So I don't know if that broke after, and maybe it's why they didn't keep using it. They were like, oh, screw this one. Or maybe they liked it that way. I don't know.
I bet that killed a few enemies before it cracked open.
It cracked somebody's noggin.
Brian has an amazing view from his hilltop castle, and he often talks about the Indians that used to sit up here and look down on the miners down below in the town of Columbia. And I just thought maybe I would recreate a little bit of maybe what this place looked like back in the 1850s when the miners were just now coming to Columbia, and maybe what the scene looked like if you had a little time machine to drift back. I'm sure Brian will appreciate this because he's already seen this vision in his head already. So I got into an argument with Brian about Cinco de Mayo because I can remember reading about 15 years ago that Cinco de Mayo was a scam. It's not a Mexican holiday. It's an American holiday that was based on some bullshit marketing from what's the beer?
Corona.
Corona.
I think it was Budweiser.
It could have been. It could have been either or. But I'm like, it's a scam. Cinco de Mayo is not really a real Mexican holiday. And Brian was like, no. And it started here in Colombia back in
1862.
And I was like, you're full of shit, man. You're just fucking whatever.
So we bet $5,000.
So we looked it up, and it started here in Colombia in 1862. Based on what? What's the deal?
Mexico won independence over France, and the Mexican miners here in town. We're in the motherlands where they used to
gold country.
There was a lot of gold miners, so there was a lot of Mexican gold miners because this wasn't California yet, and so they were here. And once they got news that they had won independence over France, they had a big celebration downtown here in Colombia,
California.
You can Google it. So we bet $5,000, and then he Googled it, and then he says he'll just have to owe me. But.
Well, and that's why I'm making this video, because I don't have $5,000, and I'm reaching out for all you people that, let's pay up. Let's pay up, Brian, because I'm feeling really bad that I owe Brian $5,000 now.
So
$5K.
It's not that much. You can owe me. Well, yeah.
We'll work it out.
Yeah, you can buy the next round.
Is that how we're going to work it out?
No, we're not going to do that. But yeah, so they still celebrate Cinco de Mayo. It's Saturday. Cinco de Mayo is not until Monday, May 5th.
Right.
But they're doing it on a Saturday. You can walk downtown and get margaritas, as many as you want.
But who would have known?
I knew.
There's no way I would have ever known.
People in California know.
But I mean,
in Alabama, probably not.
Yeah. Well, all I know is they've been scamming us like Kwanzaa. Kwanzaa's a bullshit freaking holiday too.
So now it's Mexican American Heritage Day around here because they want us all to get along, and we do.
No.
When you grow up in the valley in California, you grow up with a lot of Mexican friends because they work on farms and dairies, and so as a teenager, all your friends. But anyway, so the Mexicans that live in California or in the United States, they like Cinco de Mayo. It's their day. We let them run their flags.
They drink.
They drink
like a margarita.
They drink next week too, but.
Well, so here's this should be the introduction to the series of California dash. It's really not that bad. It's not as crazy as you think it is.
It's all part of California's gold.
California has real people here that are not freaking crazy, and Brian's one of them. Brian, you grew up in the capital of cowboy
capital of the world, Oakdale, California.
I didn't know that.
This town right here was really close to being the California capital at one point. It came down to there was a killing, and then they hid the votes because some people in charge didn't want this to become the capital.
Was it Democrats?
No, I don't know what they were back then, but
they were probably Whigs.
At one point, this was the second most populated town in California, second to San Francisco.
Wow.
Here.
Yeah. This one.
Yeah.
1850s. 1850s
because of gold mining. So in the 1850s, this was the second most populated town in California.
Because San Francisco really didn't have that much gold.
People would come by ship to get to San Francisco and then work their way here. And then
get to go.
They would send the money to San Francisco. A lot of them, would live in San Francisco, but there was nothing in the valley. It was they either lived up here in the foothills, they made the trek across the valley, but there was no settlements really. And then they started popping up down there. And now more people live in the valley now, but
because they could farm down there and make a living and not have to dig rock.
Well, it was because of irrigation. They started damming all these creeks. You've seen some of the rivers today.
I saw the ditch. I saw the Columbia ditch.
There's the Columbia ditch right there when it gets down to here.
Wow. That's the Columbia ditch. It's irrigated. It's basically you're coming off of the
But when you seen how big it was up there, that's how small it is when it gets down here.
It's crazy.
But so they built that the Columbia ditch to bring water down here for gold mining.
Right.
Because they were getting gold right here in town. Yeah,
it's all placer bound. Yeah.
They're doing a lot. That's why all those rocks. The dirt used to be above those rocks.
That's crazy.
If you go to the other end of town, you'll see those rocks much bigger.
Huge. Yeah. I was going to ask you about that.
The dirt was above them, and they just
got in here, started panning gold.
Yeah, it's all through there. See how it's all rock.
Yeah.
It's all been stripped away. The dirt.
And what you were telling me earlier, that house right there was
Yeah, the guy-
occupied by the owner of the St.
Yeah,
Charles.
back in the 1800s, the guy that used to run this bar used to live in that house right there. And that's pretty cool.
So it's a ghost town that people still live here.
It's a functioning ghost town, but it's became a state
That has
park.
some of the best pizza I've ever eaten.
So the state, back in the 40s, this became a real ghost town in the 40s. And the state decided, because it was so preserved and most of the buildings were here, they decided to make it a state park and maintain it the way it was in the 1850s.
Okay. Well, they've done a good job.
And so when people come here with their kids, like you can take covered wagon rides.
And how many movies have been shot in Columbia?
Over 300 movies have been shot here.
300 movies.
One of the latest one of the ones is Shadow Riders in the 80s with Kevin Costner, Sam Elliott. What's the Magnum PI guy?
Tom Selleck.
Tom Selleck.
Yeah.
It's a really good movie if you watch it.
Okay.
High Noon was filmed here.
High Noon,
High
the
Noon.
classic Western.
With
High Noon. was
Gary
filmed.
Cooper. Gary Cooper walked right up that road. When he,
But it had like dirt on
that
it.
hotel was part of it. And yeah, it was dirt. And
Yeah. So nobody knows about this part of California because everybody's focused on the crazies in LA and San Francisco.
everybody in my world knows about this place because I live in California in the real
The
world.
real world.
Everybody back east, all you crazies, don't know about this town. But this is part of California's gold.
So there's actually real people, reasonable, rational people living in California right now.
I kind of think the only people that are rational live in California, and everybody else is kind of crazy. But and I'm a truck driver. I'm everywhere all week long.
That's pretty fucking good. Rocket car. Rocket car? Was that you? Were you in the rocket car?
No, I was too young for the rocket car, but I was
Yeah.
old enough for the jump the Grand Canyon when Robbie
Dude,
did it.
okay. So I think I was like 12 or 13 when the rocket car went across
Yeah, I
the
was a
freaking...
little kid, and I had the rocket toothbrush.
Oh, I didn't know there was such a thing.
Oh, they had the toothbrush. It was a rocket with an electric toothbrush on the end of it.
Oh, no way.
And so I set it up before we were going to watch the race. I mean the jump, and I had it, and then it came out on Wide World of Sports a week after. My dad already knew that he didn't make it, but he didn't tell me because I
Right.
was all excited.
Right.
And we watched it, and but I had the toothbrush already, and it made me brush my teeth.
Oh, wow. And
Because-
look at you now.
Yeah, I
You got all your teeth.
I got
Most
some,
of them.
I got some of them, the front ones. My dad kind of was into motorcycles back in the late '60s, early '70s, big time, and
Right.
so I kind of just grew up thinking, well, if you're cool, you like motorcycles.
Yeah.
And he didn't have he had a Honda CB,
Right.
but he always told me that Harleys were the best, but he liked them, but my dad never owned a Harley.
Wow.
And then he was raised in a family, but he always kept us with dirt bikes, and we grew up next to Kenny Roberts racetrack in
Right.
Pioneer Arena. Kenny Roberts had a practice track there. Well, he had a shop there, so he practiced his craft, his dirt track. You know, he came from the flat track world,
Right.
and then running TTs and flat track.
Right.
But so some weekends he would be there, but every Sunday they had the motorcycle races there, and so me and my sister would ride our bicycles down when we could hear the motorcycles running.
You could hear him, but you couldn't see him.
And we'd ride our bicycles down to the track and watch them. We'd go up to
Okay.
the stands and watch them and hang
Right.
out in the infield and stuff, or the outfield right outside of it. And
Right.
I grew up with just thinking that men rode motorcycles because
Right.
that's what I would see. And my
Right.
dad and his friends would go, and then when I got old enough, my dad took me to the hills a few times.
But this is in Oakdale?
No, he'd take me up here in the hills and
No, I mean, you grew up in
grew up
Oakdale,
in
so
Valley Home.
Valley
So
Home, which
on
is close to
Pioneer-
Oakdale.
Pioneer Road, there was a place called Pioneer Arena. It was kind of famous, and they had a flat track there, and they had big flat track races, and then they also would make it a TT race, that basically a flat track with a elbow curve with a jump, like a mound jump, and they would race that. And sometimes it'd be a flat track. They would change it. And, anyway, there was always every Sunday there was motorcycle races there, and 12 and under would get in free. Well, I was a cool kid. I just ride my bicycle in there. And it was only a mile from my house. It was out in the country. And then later on,
I'd ride my motorcycle, and then that 250 that my dad ended up with was an ex-flat track racing bike, a Yamaha 250 that he converted back. It was converted to a flat track, and then he converted it back to being a regular dirt bike by putting the longer shocks back on it and stuff. But it was real fast. It was a 250, but I think we'd do 100 miles an hour. Oh. It depended on what sprocket we had on it.
Right.
But a lot of times we were up here in the mountains, so he'd put the big sprocket on the back so it would climb, and it would climb straight up a hill. But you put the medium sprocket on it, and then it would go really fast. It was a good. It was fun growing up. We had dirt roads and canal banks out there in Valley Home. I learned to jump the canals.
Wow. With your buddy on the back. This is what I heard.
I have with my friend Tony Goff. We used to jump the canal. Well, I did with him a couple times. I used to jump it regularly, and it was a pretty good distance, maybe 25, 30 feet.
No, I heard it was 75
water.
Feet. That's what I heard.
Well, when you're 12 years old, it was 75 feet.
175 feet then?
It was
like 12 school buses, or was it?
I was jumping the fountains at Caesar's
Palace. Exactly. And you landed it instead of ragdolling it.
Landed it every time. And you'd land into an orchard, so when you jumped it, you'd be above the trees. And then when you landed, you were down in the trees.
Nice.
And it was an optical illusion. It was kind of a trip, that was a good time.
So tell me about your dad, Bronson.
Oh, then came Bronson?
Yeah, tell me about your dad.
That was my dad.
Yeah, that was your dad.
So yeah, he used to ride his Sportster in the Los Padre forest. And one time he fell off a cliff and rolled in it, cartwheeled down the bottom of that cliff, and he got some sticks and logs, got it out of that gully, and banged on it with a rock a few times, and then rode it out of there.
So he tumbled it down like 350 feet down a big canyon, then all he did, he wound up just bending the fender.
Was some sticks, some big sticks, and
he just bent the fender back out and rode it out,
and some rocks. He had to bend some shit back with rocks.
Okay, and that's where you learned everything.
That's where I learned everything I know from watching that.
Okay, this is one of the things that hammocks are really good at that tents are not. Brian made a spot down here for tents, nice and level, or somewhat level, but I'm not a tent camper anymore. But this is one of the craziest inclines and pitches that I've camped on. But you can see a lot of trees, but they're all on a slope. The ones that are close together are all on a slope, so I didn't really have a whole lot of choice as far as trees. But once I got it set up, it sleeps pretty doggone good. It's a Hennessy. A Hennessy XXL zip jungle hammock. And that is the tarp that comes with it. The tarp's really easy to set up. It just clips on right there on both ends, and then you just pull the edges out. And when you get slack in it, you just grab it like this and pull. It's got a prusik on there. Pull, but yeah, this is really not the way to set up a freaking hammock or a tarp or anything. It's just kind of making do. So far, it's kept the rain off of me. And it's very comfortable, even though it doesn't look like it. It hangs. But that's one of the big advantages of a hammock, is anywhere you can put two trees together close enough to. And this is probably too close. Yeah, this is too close together. But it was either that tree or that tree, and I picked that tree. That one over there is not so much of a tree as it is a limb that's sticking sideways out of the hillside. But yeah, lots of other trees out here. They're just all much worse of a slope, I think. Even the ones up there, closer to the road, closer to the flat, but getting in and out of the hammock would have been a real pain. So, and that's a steeper pitch than I've got here. So.
Yeah, right there.
What's up, man?
Hi there. I'm Matt.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you. Hey, Don.
We just rolled up.
Nice to meet you.
And a new road I learned is called Hover, I believe, which branches off of Jesus Maria.
Yeah.
Those are some new ones I've found that bring me into San Andreas.
From the other side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, from McCallum Hill.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so
The back way around the.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
beautiful back
Yeah.
there, man. It's beautiful everywhere.
Yeah, everywhere you go. I live.
Everywhere you go. I have some friends that'll be like, we're gonna do 5 passes in one day, right? We'll wake
Oh,
up
yeah.
super early in the morning, and Big Hill Road is one of those ones to kind of like,
It's like windy.
yeah,
all that.
windy
Yeah.
is all. That's a fun road.
Yeah, that's.
You have a friend that's mom's used to teach you.
Yeah, a kid I grew up with, Tom Orvis. They owned the property that they originally filmed Little House on the Prairie in the very first episode where they're going across, and they had their little house out here. It was, we got to go during the first grade class, but it wasn't here. Anyway, his grandmother used to teach at this school
Okay.
until 1945. I don't know how long she taught here, but there was obviously 1869 to 1945. I don't know if she was the whole time, but
Looks like there's an eagle's nest up there on top, right behind that pole. You see it?
see that Salt Springs Valley, that's Salt Springs Reservoir back there.
Okay.
It's just a neat spot at that.
Yeah. No, this is cool.
I just said Salt Springs Reservoir.
Well, I didn't hear you.
God damn. Woohoo.
Yeah, that was me earlier. Oh.
Where we live.
So I was trying to show the weird wind last night and tonight, and nobody can tell me anything about it. It's just this all-night wind that blows, unlike every other night that I've been here. What have I been here? I've been here since Thursday night. Thursday afternoon, got here. Perfectly pleasant breeze a little bit as the sun's going down. And then every night after that until last night, Sunday night. And Sunday night was violent. It was, the wind started blowing as the sun was going down, and it never stopped. Like right now, it's got these gusts that are coming with these, 1 minute, 2 minute lulls, and then these blasts of wind that I can't explain, but you can see, and it's about 11 tonight, or it's about 11 right now, and you can see it's, everywhere else too. Everywhere else the wind's blowing, and it's probably not blowing at all down in Columbia, downtown. I bet the wind's not bad at all, but up here in the mountains, it's rough, and it's annoying, and I can't explain it because the weather last night said 5-knot winds, and I guess maybe it's all that heat from the valley moving up through the mountains
sometimes, or the mix of the cold coming down from the mountains and mixing with the hot. And I don't know. I've never seen anything like it though. Usually weather like this is a front. Something is coming through. A high pressure, low pressure system, whatever. But this is a lot of wind. And if it's half the time, that's, I don't know. I don't know if I want to camp here again. Because this is annoying. I mean, it's really annoying. If this is just a thing, half the nights you camp up here, it's 30-knot winds. It sucks. Anyway, can't explain it. Maybe some meteorologist can. Well, it's iconic. I mean, I've seen it more.
I mean, a lot of people hate graffiti and stuff, but I mean, you can't stop the kids from doing it. And now it's actually kind of turning into its own art. It changes every time you come down here because people just continuously